Clara stood at the edge of the dusty road, dust swirling around her feet as she gazed into the vast expanse of the Wild West. At just 17 years old, she felt both lost and free, a mix of emotions brewing within her. Only days ago, she had left her home in a hasty departure fueled by heated arguments with her parents. Their voices echoed in her mind, accusations, misunderstandings, and deep-set frustrations that had built like a storm ready to break. Now, with only a small bag slung over her shoulder, Clara was determined to find solace in this unforgiving land. She wandered further into the hills, the rocky terrain shifting underfoot. With each step, the weight on her heart slowly lightened. Maybe this journey would allow her to discover who she truly was or even who she wanted to become. As Clara trekked deeper into the wilderness, her attention caught sight of an old mine entrance partially hidden beneath a cluster of thick shrubs. Curious, she felt an inexplicable pull towards it. She stepped inside cautiously, darkness enveloping her as she adjusted to the change from sunlight to shadow. A sense of adventure ignited within her, perhaps this mine held new opportunities for her future. Inside, Clara explored its cool passages and ancient stones. Her heart raced with excitement as she stumbled upon a larger chamber, realizing how spacious it was. The heavy stones lining the walls whispered secrets of days gone by. Right then and there, an idea sparked in her mind. This could be more than just a shelter, it could be her very own bakery. With determination burning brighter than ever, Clara envisioned an underground bakery powered by her own hands, a place that seemed perfect for someone looking for refuge while building something worthwhile. Despite being all alone, she felt strengthened by purpose as she began envisioning her new life in the Wild West. With the sun beginning to dip behind the hills, Clara continued her journey, each step uncovering new wonders of the Wild West. The scent of earth and wild sage filled the air, invigorating her spirit. As she climbed higher up the rocky path, she felt a growing anticipation pulsating through her veins. What lay beyond the next bend? Would it be a hidden grove or perhaps a cool stream? Suddenly, as she rounded a corner, her eyes widened in amazement. There it was, a dark entrance to an old mine, partly concealed by thick shrubs and towering stones. Clara's heart raced at the sight. It looked like something out of a storybook. Her curiosity urged her forward, and without thinking twice, she approached the entrance with careful steps. Peering inside, she was met with cool air that brushed against her skin and shadows dancing along the walls. Each breath echoed lightly in the silence, as if inviting her further in. Clara took a deep breath and stepped inside, feeling exhilarated by the adventure ahead. The darkness enveloped her, but it was not frightening. Instead, it felt like stepping into the unknown, a place brimming with possibilities. As she moved deeper into the mine, Clara noticed faint glimmers of mineral deposits scattered across the stone walls, sparkling like hidden jewels in the faint light. The earthen scent became richer, embracing her within its ancient secrets. When she finally reached a larger chamber, astonishment filled her as she took in its vastness. The space seemed endless, with high ceilings that echoed with her every movement. In that moment, inspiration struck. Clara envisioned this expansive space transformed into an underground bakery, a place where she could create warmth and nourishment for herself and others. Excitement bubbled within her as she imagined lovingly baked bread filling the air with delightful aromas. This abandoned mine was no longer just a shelter, it was about to become a home filled with purpose. Clara stood in the vast chamber of the mine, her heart racing with excitement as she surveyed her surroundings. The cool air whispered against her skin, and she could almost hear the echoes of laughter and chatter that might fill this space once she transformed it into her bakery. But first, she needed to gather materials. She began to explore the mine more thoroughly, eyes wide with wonder. The walls were made of sturdy stone, and Clara's mind raced with ideas for building an oven. She knelt down to examine some large flat stones nearby, their surfaces smooth and perfect for heating. These will make a great oven, she thought, a grin spreading across her face. As she continued to search, Clara noticed wooden beams scattered around the chamber. They looked old but still strong enough to be useful. She carefully pulled several pieces free from the debris, imagining how they could become shelves for her baked goods. "I can make this work," she whispered to herself, filled with determination. With her arms full of stone and wood, Clara returned to her chosen spot in the mine. She began by arranging the stones into a circle, stacking them carefully to form a sturdy oven base. Sweat glistened on her brow as she worked tirelessly, each movement fueled by excitement and resolve. Once the base was complete, she set about constructing the shelves using the wooden beams. Clara used simple knots and ties she had learned from helping her father with chores back home, ensuring they would hold up under weight. As she stepped back to admire her handiwork, she felt a sense of pride swell within her. The underground bakery was taking shape right before her eyes. With each piece of material she found and every structure she built, Clara knew that this place would become a haven not just for herself but for others in need, a warm refuge filled with delicious bread and hope for all who entered. With the oven built and the shelves in place, Clara realized the next step was to learn the art of baking bread. She felt a mix of excitement and uncertainty, knowing she had no one to guide her. Clara searched through her memories of her mother's kitchen, where the warm smells of fresh bread had always filled the air. Those lessons seemed distant now, but she was determined to recreate that magic on her own. Clara began to gather her ingredients, mindful of her limited supplies. She found wild grains scattered nearby, and with effort, she ground them into a coarse flour using stones she had smoothed out. Every step felt like a small victory. She thought about the combination of water and flour and how yeast would help bring her dough to life. When Clara found some wild yeast in a nearby puddle, she hoped it would be enough to help her dough rise. With everything prepared, Clara mixed the ingredients together, feeling the texture of the dough in her hands. She kneaded with purpose, pouring her heart into each fold and press. The soft, warm dough slowly became elastic under her fingertips, and she couldn't help but smile at her progress. "This will be the start of something wonderful," she whispered to herself. After letting the dough rise in the cozy warmth of the mine, Clara shaped it into loaves and placed them carefully into the stone oven. As she waited for them to bake, she felt a sense of calm wash over her. The smell of bread began to fill the chamber, and Clara closed her eyes, savoring every moment. When she finally pulled the loaves from the oven, golden brown and crusty, pure joy surged through her. Baking had become more than just a necessity, it was a passion that offered solace from her loneliness. In that moment, Clara knew she could turn this underground bakery into a beacon of hope for herself and others in need. Just as Clara began to settle into her new routine, the weather took a sharp turn. Dark clouds gathered ominously overhead, blocking out the sun and casting a gloomy shadow over the town. A harsh blizzard was on its way, and she could feel the chill in the air even deep inside her underground bakery. Within days, the winds howled like wild animals, shaking the mine's entrance and sending icy gusts swirling through the small cracks. Snow piled high outside, quickly blanketing the town and cutting off access to supplies. Clara listened closely as she heard townsfolk worriedly discussing their dwindling food stocks. What once seemed like a cozy community now felt vulnerable and frightened. As the blizzard raged on, Clara's heart sank when she thought of the townspeople struggling to survive. Many families relied on their pantries, but as the days turned into a week, food supplies ran low, and desperation settled in. The laughter of children was replaced by murmurs of concern as people realized they might not have enough to eat. Watching the storm from her bakery, Clara felt an overwhelming urge to help. She had been blessed with her newfound skill of baking bread, and now it was time to put it into action for those in need. The warm loaves she had baked so far filled her with pride, but she knew they wouldn't be enough. Everyone deserves a warm meal, she told herself, her determination solidifying. Clara gathered all her remaining ingredients, ready to make as much bread as possible. With each loaf she prepared, Clara envisioned the townspeople finding comfort in her baking during this difficult time. In the midst of the storm, she understood that her bakery could be a beacon of hope for her community when they needed it most. As the blizzard continued to howl outside, Clara worked diligently in her underground bakery, the warmth of the oven contrasting sharply with the cold ravaging the world above. With each loaf she shaped and baked, her heart swelled with a sense of purpose. "I can't let everyone suffer while I have enough to share," she thought, and that idea blossomed into a plan. Determined to help her community, Clara imagined families huddled together in their homes, fear in their eyes as they realized food was running out. She remembered how baking had once brought comfort to her own family and knew she could do the same for others. "I have to do this," she whispered, feeling more connected to the townsfolk than ever before despite her isolation. She quickly set about organizing herself. Clara envisioned how she would distribute the bread throughout the town. Instead of keeping all her efforts hidden beneath the earth, she felt it was time to bring her creations into the light and serve those in need. She prepared a collection of loaves, some round, some long, arranging them carefully on wooden shelves as she planned where each batch would go. With every loaf that came out golden brown from the oven, Clara felt deep joy filling her heart. She carefully wrapped them in cloths to keep them warm and soft for delivery. As she packed them up, thoughts of smiling faces and relieved sighs filled her mind. When morning came and the blizzard began to ease, Clara finally ventured out into the snow-covered world. She carried a large sack filled with bread on her back, eager to share what she had created. The journey from her mine through the deep snow may have been daunting, but with each step forward, Clara felt empowered by her desire to help others. This underground bakery was no longer just a refuge for herself, it had transformed into a lifeline for those who might otherwise suffer alone in the unforgiving winter. As the sun peeked through the clouds after the relentless blizzard, Clara ventured into the town, her heart pounding with anticipation. She carried her large sack of freshly baked bread, its warm aroma wafting through the cold air. Stepping into the town square, Clara's eyes took in the weary faces of her neighbors, their tired expressions telling stories of hardship and worry. Clara approached a small gathering of townsfolk who were huddled together for warmth. With a nervous but determined smile, she called out, "I have fresh bread for everyone. Please, take as much as you need." The crowd turned, eyes widening in surprise at the sight of her. Many struggled to recognize the girl who had once been isolated in the mine. They hesitated at first, exchanging glances filled with disbelief and curiosity. Clara carefully set the sack down and began to pull out the warm loaves, handing them out one by one. As she offered each loaf, she felt the warmth spread not only from the bread but also from their gratitude. An older woman received a loaf and clasped it to her chest, tears shining in her eyes. "Thank you, Clara. We thought we wouldn't eat for days," she said, her voice thick with emotion. One by one, more townspeople accepted the bread, their surprise quickly turning into delight as they tore into the crusty exterior. "This is delicious," exclaimed a young boy, his eyes lighting up as he took a bite. Laughter and grateful smiles spread through the crowd as Clara watched their joy unfold. In that moment, Clara realized that her baking had not only filled hungry stomachs but had also rekindled a sense of community among them. The warmth of their appreciation wrapped around her like a blanket, confirming that she was no longer alone. Clara had transformed her underground bakery into a source of hope and connection for everyone around her, a true lifeline during their time of need. Word about Clara's underground bakery spread quickly throughout the town, carrying a mix of hope and curiosity on the icy winds. Families who had felt lost began to talk about the girl in the mine whose bread had saved them during the blizzard. It wasn't long before they all longed to visit her, eager for more of the warm comfort she had provided. The next day, as Clara prepared for another round of baking, she heard soft knocks echo from her mine's entrance. When she opened the heavy wooden door, she found Mrs. Jenkins, an elderly woman from town, standing there with a group of wide-eyed children. "We heard you have bread," Mrs. Jenkins exclaimed, joy lighting up her face despite the cold weather outside. "Of course. Come on in," Clara smiled warmly, ushering them inside. The children giggled as they entered, curious about the makeshift bakery hidden beneath the earth. Their eyes widened in wonder at the sight of racks filled with freshly baked loaves. As Clara handed over warm pieces of bread to each visitor, their faces lit up with delight. Little Timmy took a huge bite and squealed, "This is the best bread ever." His mother chuckled lightly while nodding in agreement. Soon after that initial visit, more townsfolk climbed through the snow to seek out Clara's bakery. Farmers like Mr. Davis and his wife arrived with empty baskets and hopeful hearts. "We'd have never made it without your help," he said sincerely, his voice thick with gratitude while accepting a loaf for his family. As more people came to experience Clara's kindness and generosity, she felt fulfilled in ways she hadn't anticipated. Surrounding herself with cheerful conversations and laughter filled her heart with joy, a sweet sound that complemented the aroma of fresh bread wafting through the mine. Her underground bakery was becoming a true refuge for the community, not just for nourishment but as a place where friendships were being reignited amid struggling times. With each passing day, the atmosphere in the town began to shift. Clara's underground bakery had not only become a source of nourishment but also a gathering place where old grievances faded away. As families united over warm loaves of bread, former disputes seemed trivial compared to the camaraderie blossoming amid shared meals. One chilly afternoon, Clara looked up from her baking and saw Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Davis sitting at the small wooden table she had set up in her mine, laughing like old friends. These two men had once been rivals over land and resources, their animosity palpable during the growing season. Yet now their laughter filled the space, bonding over a loaf of Clara's freshly baked bread. "I must admit," Mr. Jenkins said between hearty bites, "this bread has softened my grumpy heart." Mr. Davis chuckled in agreement. "You know what? You're right. We've wasted too much time bickering when we could have been sharing good meals like this." Clara smiled, grateful for these moments of connection emerging from her efforts. The warmth from the oven was not just in the bread, it radiated through the friendships forming around her. As more townsfolk gathered in her mine, Clara witnessed how her small act of kindness led to greater transformations in relationships. Neighbors who had once avoided each other were now inviting one another to share their meals and stories. Clara overheard Mrs. Larson sharing a recipe with Mrs. Tanaka while their children played at their feet, giggling as they made up silly games. The joy spreading throughout the community was contagious, it wrapped around Clara like a comforting embrace, filling her heart with happiness and purpose. She realized that what began as an endeavor to survive had evolved into something far greater, a unified community bound by friendship forged over shared meals and mutual respect. In that moment, Clara understood that she wasn't just baking for survival, she was baking for connection, healing divisions that once seemed impossible to mend. Her underground bakery became a haven not only for food but also for love and understanding among those who had long been divided. As the blizzard finally subsided, the sun broke through the grey clouds, casting a warm glow over the town. Clara stepped outside her underground bakery, taking a deep breath of the crisp, fresh air that felt like a promise of new beginnings. The snow glistened like diamonds, and Clara marveled at how the world had transformed after days of darkness. People emerged from their homes, eyes wide with relief and gratitude as they ventured toward Clara's mine. They were no longer just neighbors, they had become friends who shared laughter and stories over bread. Clara watched as families gathered outside her bakery, their faces bright with joy as they shared their experiences during the storm. "Clara," shouted Mrs. Jenkins, waving excitedly. "You saved us. We couldn't have made it without you." The townsfolk echoed her sentiments, expressing heartfelt thanks for the warmth and nourishment Clara had provided. It struck Clara how much her small act of kindness had rippled through the community, knitting them together in ways she never imagined possible. In that moment, Clara realized she had grown from the lonely girl who once sought refuge in the mine into a community hero. Her bakery was no longer just a place for baking, it had become a symbol of hope and connection. The friendships forged over warm loaves of bread had healed old wounds and built bridges where there had once been divides. As laughter filled the air and children played joyfully in the snow, Clara felt a deep sense of belonging. She understood that she was no longer isolated, she was part of something larger than herself. Her heart swelled with pride, knowing that she had contributed to a stronger, united community. Clara's journey had come full circle. From exile to acceptance, from solitude to solidarity, she embraced her new life with open arms. And with every loaf she baked, she continued to nurture not only bodies but also spirits, fostering love, understanding, and connection among all those who entered her underground bakery.